This is Terrence Kyle with MTAC Roofing Systems doing a roof inspection for Heidi. Heidi, the first thing I'm looking for is basically the overall condition of the shingle. Is it in good condition, bad condition, or horrible condition? And then I'll be going over the components just to make sure that you're aware of anything that's going on the roof. I'll be going over the siding and the gutters. First thing I'm going to go over is the shingle itself. The shingle looks like it's in okay condition, not in the best, definitely not in the worst. But what makes up a shingle is a fiberglass mat. You can start seeing those fibers right there. Then it's a layer of asphalt. Once the asphalt is on that mat, then granules are poured onto the shingle, and that's kind of what makes up a shingle. So that being said, is once you start seeing fiberglass on these shingles, you can start seeing it on the edges, at the end of the exposure, stuff like that right there. That kind of tells me that this roof is getting to the end of its life in Spec C. I wouldn't say it's at the end of its life in Spec C. I haven't seen any hail, any wind damage. However, I have seen some stuff like this, some deterioration marks, stuff like this where the shingle's lifting right here. You look up under there and it's just a nail pop. This nail was never nailed in all the way. So what it did is it sealed down in some areas, and then where that nail was popping out, it's backed this shingle up off, allowing it not to seal. I've looked over your ridges. Everything looks good up here. There is no ventilation up here, so you're gonna start seeing blistering. What blistering is blistering is kind of like little blister marks all across the shingle where granules just start falling off. And when blistering happens, what can happen is it'll basically just eat this shingle away because there's no proper ventilation. What you should have is a ridge vent, kind of like your neighbors. That's an older roof, but does have ventilation. And then I started looking on all the ridges and all the components, and I started seeing exposed nail heads. This generally happens around 10 to 12 years of age. You start seeing that this sealant starts failing. Once you have exposed nail heads, generally they start rusting, and rust can lead to deterioration or backing out nails. Same thing right here. Your HVAC component is starting to rust. You start seeing it right there, rust right here, and then rusted nail heads. And generally rust will always deteriorate whatever it's on. The pipe boot, so you got one over there, got one right here. And a pipe boot generally should have two layers. So you should have a pipe boot, which goes around your plumbing pipe. It's just proper flashing so water can run around. And then you should have a UV collar. So any roof that I build, whether retail or insurance, I'm gonna put a UV collar around that pipe boot so that there's two layers of protection against UV rays, because hot days will dry rot these components right here super quickly. I would say right around the 10-12 year range is when you're gonna start seeing dry rot. Now these look to be in okay condition. Would definitely suggest a UV collar if you're gonna get any more years out of this roof and out of the components. Another thing that I've seen is on the side here, you have a little gap. Same thing on this side. And then you have exposed nail heads. So what's happening is water's probably running down this side. It's getting up under here. And then eventually what will happen is it'll get to this nail, it'll deteriorate it, and then it'll pull it out. And now you've got a hole on your roof where water can get in there. Now it's a tiny hole, but 6 hours of rain, what happens is water gets in that hole, and after time it just deteriorates it. Same thing, HVAC unit is rusted. Kind of the same as that one. That one's in a little worse of condition. And then right here, I think this is where the leak may be coming from. You said on a hard rain, what happens is water will come into the home. Same thing, no UV collar, rusted nail heads, the sealant's starting to come off. But I think what's happening right here is this nail might be causing the problem, because you can see that it's kind of trying to back out, but it's still in there. So what happens, just like I said, is it creates a hole, water gets in that hole, the hole gets bigger, and now that nail is just loose. So every time wind-driven rain comes, it's probably getting to that nail head. Depending on how hard it's raining and how long it rains, that's probably where you're seeing the leak come from. I'll seal that up right before I jump off of here. Your siding closer to the bottom here is starting to get a little frayed out. Definitely wanted to make you aware of that. I do not do siding work, but it's always good to know what's going on up here. And then everything seems to be flashed properly. I couldn't really tell you if there is flashing under there, but I can see flashing right here. Can't see it right here. I can feel it. If I had to guess, this flashing right here is probably rusted out. What I would have done is put a piece of kick out so that water will actually flow around and not right up against this siding right here. Of course, Your back gutter looks to be okay. Gutter guards are starting to rust. And then I know on the bottom right side, that gutter is kind of hanging off. Same thing going on over here. These gutter guards starting to rust. Gutters seem to be okay. Right there, I can go ahead and tell you. What happens is the shingle has a common bond area. A common bond area is basically what connects the piece of lamination to the shingle. If you don't hit that common bond, which is about 1/4 inch, what happens is this bottom layer will start sliding out and the lamination will still be nailed. So that's probably what's going on right there. It looks like a repair. There's a couple nail pops right there. Same thing that I showed you on that slope right there. This kind of common stuff. I know when I build a roof, I generally never see nail pops. That generally just means that the nail guns or whoever was hammering didn't hammer that nail enough, and now you're starting to see it 10 years, 15 years down the road where those nails are backing out and could potentially lead to water intrusion. Heidi, I'll get down, and before I get down, I'll show you this right here. This is your north slope. That's why it's starting to stain like this. On your beauty strip, you do have some exposed nail heads. And then right here, I mean, you got a pile of debris. So may not be causing a leak right now, but what happens is water is going to back up right here. It's going to soak all this debris, and then that debris is going to be able to get into these nails. It's going to be able to sit around that flashing until it finds its way in. Like I said, probably hadn't found its way in yet, but it's a matter of time. I definitely wanted to make you aware of this. I'll shoot this video to you and we'll go from there.